Hello everybody, welcome to your first Food Smarts cooking class. I'm super excited to be here with you. My name is Miss Becca. I am a nutrition educator from Maine Snap Ed. I may have met some of you guys before. Maybe you met me when you were in younger grades at your school, or maybe at this point you've met me over video already. And if you haven't yet, I'll be making a video appearance to say hi to you guys live at some point. So hopefully I either look familiar already or I get to meet you guys very soon. So over the next 6 weeks, I'm going to be joining you over video, and we're going to be learning and talking about cooking. And we're also going to discuss foods and drinks and how they make our bodies feel and what they do in our bodies and what sort of decisions we have about the food that we eat. We're going to talk about what makes us feel good, what doesn't make us feel good, what makes our body strong, and how we can make choices about that sort of stuff. And then the most fun part is we're going to get to learn a little bit of cooking. So we'll learn some knife skills, we'll learn how to read a recipe, we might even talk about how to write a recipe. I will be joining you for 6 sessions. And the way they're going to work is I'm going to be here over video like today, just for a few minutes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each of our key thoughts for the day. I'm going to do some demonstrations about different skills and things we can do in the kitchen. And I'm going to introduce some activities and discussions that you guys are going to do in your class with your teachers. So at our first class, the most important thing that we need to know when we're starting to cook in the kitchen is how to be safe, right? Because there's a lot of things in the kitchen that could be dangerous if they aren't used correctly. But if you know what you're doing and you're being safe and you're making sure you're aware of your surroundings, you're gonna be right. So if we're in the classroom, we want to know what's around us, right? And we want to be focused and not goofing off when we're cooking. Because we really want to practice as if we are in a real kitchen, a full kitchen that might have some dangerous things in there, right? Knives could be dangerous if we're not paying attention. Some of the electronics that we use could be dangerous if we're not paying attention, like a blender or a toaster oven, right? And the stove can be dangerous if we're not paying attention. So we really want to be safe and aware and paying attention when we're in the kitchen. So here are some things that we want to think about when we are doing that. So I bet you guys know a lot of these, but the number one thing we have to remember when we're in the kitchen is to clean our hands, right? And you guys are probably super familiar with washing your hands these days, but we want to wash with warm water and soap for 20 seconds. That gets all those germs off so that the germ doesn't get on our food, and then we eat the food and the germs get in our body. So wash your hands, and we also want to wash our surfaces. So if you guys are preparing food at your desks today, or maybe you're at a table in your house that isn't normally the place where you prepare food, we're going to want to wipe that down with a clean cloth, with hot soapy water too, and then wipe it clean. Or maybe we have like a Lysol wipe or something, that'd be perfect too. So we want to wash our hands, we want to wash our surfaces, and we want to do that before we cook and after we cook. And if we ever are using raw eggs or raw meat or fish of any kind, right? So if we're using those raw things, they have lots of germs on them. So if we have a cutting board or knife that we're using and it's touched that raw meat, we want to wash that right away. And if we've touched it with our hands, we want to wash our hands right away. And if we have a surface that has had the raw meat touch it, we don't want to put anything cooked on it, because then it's going to get the germs from the raw meat, right? So we want to keep that stuff really clean. And if we have to prepare that, wash our hands and wash our materials right after we do it. So now that we've thought about washing our hands and washing our surfaces and keeping everything clean and sanitary, we also want to think about knives. So we don't want little kids using knives. So if you're at home, you really want to make sure there's an adult there and you're using that plastic knife that you have. In the classroom, you guys just have plastic knives. So those are the ones that are going to be safe for you guys while you're cooking today. Always want an adult around, so you've got your teachers there, and if you're cooking at home, make sure there's an adult in the house in case something goes wrong, right? There's lots of things that could happen in the kitchen. When we're using the stove, we want to make sure that the handles of our pots are pointed in towards the stove, right? So we don't catch it on the side of our shirt and have a hot pot flinging on the floor. when we are using electronic things like toasters or toaster ovens or maybe like egg beaters, we want to make sure that we keep them away from water, right? So we don't get a little shock. And the last thing is, with, the best part of cooking is like tasting what you've made, right? But we want to make sure to do that after things are cooked, and we always want to use a clean spoon every time. My last rule, this isn't so much about kitchen safety, but if we're cooking and we're making a mess, we need to remember to clean up the mess, right? So if you're cooking at home, don't leave that for the adults in your house to clean up. If you're cooking in the classroom, make sure your teachers aren't the ones cleaning up. So we're going to clean all of our own spaces, put the dishes where they need to go, and make sure that we end with the table looking exactly how it was before we started cooking. Today, you guys are going to be starting to use the knives that we provided. So we're gonna pretend and we're gonna practice using these knives like they're super sharp knives, right? Because that's how we get comfortable using a knife, is that we use something that if we make a mistake, it's not gonna hurt us, so that when we're ready to use the sharper version of a knife, that we're really safe and we feel confident that we're not gonna have a little nick on our finger and hurt ourselves, right? So when you use these plastic knives in school or at home when you're preparing over Zoom, I really want you to pretend that they are a really sharp knife and practice all the good skills that we're about to talk about. So join me in my kitchen, and I'm gonna demonstrate how to use a knife really safely and talk a little bit about different kinds of knives and how we might use them. So here we are in the kitchen. Here's my cutting board. I got my knife all ready for me. The thing that we want to remember, even before we start thinking about knife safety, is that we need to have washed our hands, right, for 20 seconds with warm soapy water. And we always need to remember to wash our fruits and vegetables as well, right? Because sometimes they have stuff sprayed on them, or a lot of hands have touched them before they get to us, and we want to get those germs off. So I've washed my hands, I've rinsed my cucumber and my lemon, and now we are good to go. So this is the kind of knife you're going to be using in class. This is called a serrated knife. So you see how the blade has sort of like teeth on it. So we use this kind of more like a saw. We're going to go in a sawing motion. Other knives could have flat blades like this. This is a paring knife. This is an actual knife from my kitchen. These work well too, but honestly, these serrated knives you're going to be using are going to work for every recipe that we're going to be talking about in class. So these actually work really well, and I use these in my kitchen too for some things like lettuce, so that the edges don't get brown. So this is a great knife to use. So the first thing we need to know that when we're using a knife is that we always want to be focused on what we're doing, right? So if you're in the middle of slicing something in class and your teacher needs your attention, what we want to do is just put that knife right down, pay attention to whatever our teacher needs to tell us, or if we have to go get a drink of water or wash our hands, and then we're going to come back and pick up our knife. So we never want to be talking to other people or looking a different direction while we're using our knives. Remember, because we're pretending that these are nice, sharp knives to practice our skills. We also always want to leave the knife on our cutting board unless we are going to wash it. So if we're going to wash it, we're going to hold it by the handle and we're going to walk with it at our side. And if we walk behind everyone, we're going to say knife behind so that they know they don't accidentally walk backwards or turn and hit our knife, right? But most of the time, we're just going to leave our knife right on our cutting board. So we're going to hold the knife in our dominant hand. So if you write with your right hand, you're going to hold in your right hand. If you write with your left hand, you're going to hold it in your left hand. And we are always going to have the tip of the knife down and our non-dominant hand in the shape of a claw. So we're going to tuck our fingertips in. And that's so that if we're cutting and we slip, we're just going to hit our knuckles. We're not going to slice the tip of our finger, right? Again, remembering that this is nice and sharp. So let's do a little demo here. I've got a cucumber that I ate for lunch today. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold the cucumber with our claw, so fingertips tucked in. It's almost like we're holding whatever we're cutting with our knuckles. And we're going to keep the tip down, and we're going to go in a sawing motion. And there we have a slice of cucumber. If a recipe says diced, what we could do is cut a slice, and then cut this in strips, and then turn it again and cut it in strips again the other way. Nice, we've got nice little cubes or diced cucumber. And the other thing to remember when we're cutting our fruits and veggies in class is that we always want to look for a flat surface. So this cucumber actually kind of had a flat side, so that was a little bit easy for me. But this lemon, it's going to roll all around. So what I'm going to do is my fingertips are tucked in. I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to find this nice flat side. So now it's stable, and I can cut it the other way. So we're always focusing on what we're doing when we're using a knife. If we aren't using it, we're going to put it right down on our cutting board. We have our claw tucking our fingertips in with our non-dominant hand, and those are the basics of using a knife safely. All right, everybody, time for you to do some activities and get to cooking in your class. So remember, check out page 12 for some of your kitchen safety reminders. See if there's anything you want to add for your classroom or at home, or if there's something that you already do at home that you want to add to that list, that's great. And for your recipe today, remember to practice those safe knife skills. We're not really following a recipe. It's really just about chopping and assembling. So focus on your safe knife skills, get those down so we can take the next step next time. And think about anything you would change about this recipe. If you had all the ingredients in the world, what would you choose? Because recipes are really made to be changed so that they are the most delicious option for you. Have fun, enjoy, and I will see you next time.